First, we're going over the quarterback position. Talk about Matthew Stafford going against a Cardinals defense that ranks 24th against opposing quarterbacks. Stafford may be without Cooper Kupp this week, but he still possesses enough firepower to be a very solid fantasy option this week against that Cardinals defense that really has struggled against quarterbacks this season. It looks like the offense for the Cardinals should be good enough to have a back and forth type of game for Stafford to be able to rack up the points. Get Stafford in your lineups. Next quarterback we're going to talk about here is Derek Carr going against that Falcons defense that ranks 28th against opposing quarterbacks. Carr has thrown for over 300 yards in 3 of the last 5 games, with the last game not really counting because he was knocked out due to a concussion. With all that being said, here comes a division rival where the winner will pretty much just lead the division, and Derek Carr was brought into New Orleans to make sure we seal the deal on this division. And I say we because I am a Saints fan. So I see Carr going out there and pretty much just showing everyone why he was brought into New Orleans. You know, it may not look pretty, but Carr is a start for me this week. Last quarterback we're going over here is Joshua Dobbs going against that Bears defense, ranks 25th against opposing quarterbacks. So Dobbs has really taken the Vikings by storm here. You know, a once quarterback that was tossed around like a sack of potatoes now just seems like a good franchise type of quarterback. So Dobbs is already the rushing touchdown leader on the Vikings team thus far this season, and against the division rival Bears, he could be in for even more. Dobbs is a must start as long as he's putting up these type of fantasy numbers. Let's move over to the running backs here. Talk about Derrick Henry against this Panthers defense ranking 31st against opposing running backs. I know, just everyone out there right now saying, Bayou, why in the world would you recommend Derrick Henry this week? Well, here's my thinking. So Derrick Henry is still seeing double-digit carries even when the Titans are being blown out. And if you look at the closer matchups they had previously with, Pittsburgh and then had Atlanta, we saw Henry with 17 and 22 attempts respectively. So against an awful Panthers defense, the Titans should be winning, and that means a heavy dose of Derrick Henry. There's absolutely no one on the Panthers defense who can come close to stopping Henry. So I see a blow-up game coming from him this week. Next running back we're talking about here is Ramondre Stevenson going against that Giants defense that ranks 29th against opposing running backs. Stevenson finally reached that 20 carry mark there in week 10 against the Colts, and there may be a chance that he finally really grabbed the reins back on this offense like we all thought that he was going to do in this offseason. So coming off of last week's bye, Stevenson gets to go against a Giants defense who has been gashed all season long. If Ramondre can continue to see this type of workload like he did in week 10, you can finally see some production for your fantasy team. He's a start for me this week. Last running back I'm going to talk about here is Gus Edwards going against that Chargers defense that ranks 24th against opposing running backs. Edwards is starting to pick up steam in that run game. So in the last 4 weeks, Edwards has 8 rushing touchdowns. Edwards finished as a top 7 running back in 4 of the past 5 weeks. And against this Chargers defense, he has a very good chance of making it 5 of the past 6 weeks. So Lamar Jackson gets a ton of carries for this team, but Edwards is making a case yet again that he belongs in this conversation. Move over here to the wide receiver position. We're going to talk about Tank Dell going against that Jaguars defense that ranks 19th against opposing wide receivers. This guy is starting to really explode, and you need to make sure that he is in your lineup so you don't miss out. The last time Dell faced the Jaguars, he put up 145 yards and a touchdown. He can definitely do that again this week in a bat of an eye. So Dell looks like he could be really good connected with Stroud at this point. I love his chances for having another boom game this week. Next wide receiver we're talking about here is Gabe Davis going against that Eagles defense that ranks dead last against opposing wide receivers. Davis has been on a touchdown drought even after starting the season, with a touchdown in his 4 of his first 5 games. But this week he gets to play the Eagles where the opportunity is there for a boom play for you. So Davis is the definition of a boom or bust type of player with Josh Allen's strong arm and the Eagles' inability to really cover that deep ball. This seems to be a matchup made in heaven. Take a swing on Davis this week. Last wide receiver I'll recommend here is Jonathan Mingo taking on that Titans defense that ranks 27th against opposing wide receivers. I know there's going to be those who are looking at those box scores and seeing that Mingo has had only 1 reception in 2 of the past 3 weeks, but what they fail to realize is that he is averaging almost 6 targets a game over that span as well. Bryce Young has a ton of growing pains going at the moment, but against the Titans secondary, sometimes growing pains can be expedited. So if Mingo can start to haul in some of these receptions, then I can see a flex start worthy for Mingo this week. If you need it in a pinch, I like Mingo's opportunity against the Titans. Talk about the tight end position here. First guy talking about Dalton Schultz going against that Jaguars defense, ranks 31st against opposing tight ends. Schultz has been a very solid fantasy tight end this season. Yes, he's pooped the bed a couple of weeks, in the past, but for the most part, we have seen Schultz play quite well. The Jaguars have no idea how to stop the tight end position, and with the Texans offense who throws the ball all over the field, I really like Schultz's chance of a touchdown this week, so it should be a solid week for Schultz. Next tight end we're talking about here is Pat Freiermuth going against that Bengals defense that ranks 30th against opposing tight ends. Pat Freiermuth just had one reception in his first game back from IR, and while some look at that and really get disappointed, I look at it with a lot of optimism. So just diving in a little bit deeper, we do understand that the starters was going against a very good defense in the Browns. This week, the Bengals are the exact opposite of that. Freiermuth was in 54% of the tight end snaps last week, and we may even be seeing him start to get closer to what he was early in the season at 75%, which is what we're really used to, prior to his injury. So there should be plenty of opportunity here for him to succeed. Freiermuth is a start for me this week. Last tight end we're talking about here is going to be Trey McBride taking on that Rams defense that ranks 28th against opposing tight ends. Y'all are going to be sick of me recommending this guy before the season's over. I absolutely love what McBride brings to the table for your fantasy team. He just checks all of the boxes. Let's just talk about it. Bad team? Check. High target share? Check. Good quarterback? Check. The number one option on the offense? Check. I mean, he has everything you want in a tight end that you usually don't see unless your name is Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews. So McBride is a set it and forget it this week. Now on to the Bengal Tiger start of the week. The Bengal Tiger start of the week is tight end David Njoku. Njoku has finally seen the targets that I was talking about in this offseason. Last week he saw a whopping 15 targets, and this week he gets to go up against the worst team against opposing tight ends this season, and that's the Broncos. So I absolutely love Njoku, as I believe he's going to give you a jaw-dropping type of performance here in week 12. Just his target share alone makes him the Bengal Tiger start of the week.